Welcome to another episode of Jamin's Daily. We have a very special guest, a returning guest, James Rivera, with us today. Say hello, James, to the folks at home, and how are you doing?
Hi, guys. Doing great, man. Thank you for having me on again.
Terrific. Thanks for joining. Let's get into, I want to say there's probably been about 40 episodes. It's been maybe 2 months. You're one of the very first guests to do the show. So, I want to thank you now. Thank you very much. And I'm going to take a small slither, because since then, success, you've been doing well. And I want to say, maybe this was good juju coming on the show. It is, so I'm going to take a small bit of credit for your success. Okay. The show is not me personally, the show. The podcast itself. Yeah. There's a little bit of credit there. So we're hoping you're on again today, and it's going to lead into, we want to be your lucky charm. All right. I want to be like, every time you come on this show, then something good happens. So, what have you been up to, man? You've been, you've been a professional for a long time. So everybody's new to something when they first started, right? So you've been into real estate here for a while now, and how are you doing? How your team, the people you're working with? Just a quick synopsis.
Good. No. Yeah. Like you mentioned, I had been in real estate for a while. Actually, 18 years in lending, between mortgage lending, commercial lending, things like that. When I transitioned, the first time we were on with you, I had just transitioned to get my real estate license and started the steps of being on the other side of the real estate. And so since then, it's picked up quite a bit. Definitely use my contact, my networking that I've done to generate all my leads. Working with the Montalvo team, if you can see here, the Montalvo team.
Yes.
Working with Gino and the team there has been a great experience. Definitely learning a lot as far as sales, marketing, things like that. So these guys are real good as far as the support system as well. And you've got a great team behind you. That's what you need. You need that support. And, it's been good, man. It's been real good. I got a busy month. Had a listing that, sold pretty quick. I'm pretty proud of that. And keep riding that momentum.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So the cool thing about Facebook nowadays, especially if you're in sales, is it really is a great way to just tell the world. You can definitely flex and say, which is awesome, because in sales, you need to know, people need to know what you do, right? And what better way of letting them know than saying, look, we listed this house, less than a week later, we have offer, we're going to sell it. Okay.
Right.
So ultimately think about it, 20 years ago, what a realtor would have to do in order to let other people know that they sold the house. And like now you can sell a house and then you can tell all your friends and their friends. And if you have a business page, then you can boost it. Okay. That you sold a house.
Right.
It's pretty amazing. Yeah. I think maybe, what I haven't been doing, because in real estate, when you sell a house, there's a larger, we're talking about a whole house. Whereas with me, and I sell insurance, you sell one, an auto policy. It's not the same, right? But, and I don't see agents out there bragging about every time they sell a single policy, but maybe I should.
Well,
maybe that's a marketing strategy nobody else has thought of. Every time I sell something, I'm going to go on.
Yeah, maybe not a single policy, but man, hit a benchmark. Hey, be proud of what you do, man. And put it out there and let other people know that you take pride in what you do. So they'll know that, hey, man, I'll go to Jamin because I know he'll go up to bat for me or do whatever he needs to do because he takes pride in what he does. And I think that's what I'm trying to get at as far as what I'm doing. Everything right now, digital media, social networking, that's the easiest, fastest, and probably the cheapest way to get either your name or your product out there. And so that's you try and take advantage while you can.
Yeah, you have to be
charging you.
One of the things that I'm trying to do more. I've been spending a lot of the time of it here with the podcast, but what I see that you've been doing, and if you want to have success on social media, is being consistent, and this constant, you have to have, it almost has to be like a job. Like you got to consistently put something out there And if you like doing it, then even better. But I know folks who in sales who are doing things on social media and it's not like their favorite thing to do. But there's
No.
other people who just, get a kick out of it. And so then good for them,
Right. Yeah.
uh, if you're naturally inclined. Because there are people who are on Facebook all the time and they ain't getting paid. They're just telling everybody all their business.
Well, yeah. I mean, you might as well say, yeah. If you're going to be out there, hey, let's make some money off of it.
Right? You find a way to monetize it.
Right. Right.
Well, one thing that Facebook put in just recently, and I was thinking about it for the podcast. There's this thing called shops.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook shops. So if you have a business page, and so let's say you're the pedal bike shop, and you just had a Facebook page. Now you can, I believe, sell merchandise on your Facebook page through their Facebook shops,
Right.
which would be great because then you wouldn't have to have like some separate web page anymore. At some point, people don't even go to people's web pages anymore. Most times they see them on Facebook.
Well, and then too, Jamin, also, I'm thinking like, how often are you using Google anymore versus just let me Facebook it real quick? You know what I mean? Well, let me search it on Facebook. I think that's kind of where it may be steering to as far as if I'm looking for somebody here, well, they have a Facebook page, right? So let me look it up real quick and see. You can get all the same information you can get on Google. Their hours, maybe sometimes their products, you can see their photos and things like that.
It is certainly because I was in, e-commerce way, 15 years ago. Me and friends started a e-commerce website and the whole thing was Google, organic search, SEO kind of stuff. But one way to get around that now is just through Facebook because it's such an easy way to have people find you without going through Google. Because you just say search me on Facebook, or if you're already on Facebook and you just look them up, you'll find them. And so now that they're incorporating this e-commerce into it, I was like, man, I want to sell some T-shirts or something. Sell some Jamin's Daily T-shirt, come up with some cheesy catchphrase or something that I can try to sell or something. So I'm going to work it out. And, you can have some James Rivera. You should have a shirt that just has your face on it and says, on the back says, I sell homes. Right?
I'm trying to sell homes. I'm not trying to scare people away. I need to find something else. I'm actually working on either like a brand or some sort of, initial type stuff. That'll take a little bit of time. But I think, kind of be unique in what you're offering as far as when you see that either logo or whatever, they'll think of you, so.
Yeah, I'm talking like bumper stickers or something cheap. There's something to get them there and utilize it because I think it's pretty ingenious. And every time I go onto my Facebook business pages, so I have for Sage Choice and then for Jamin's Daily, it's a notification. It's up there. Like they're encouraging you to try to sell something on that page as a shop. But anyways, let's talk about we're maybe not because this is all positivity right now. Positivity. So let's keep the positive vibe, but we're moving into the Cowboys. Okay. So it's kind of hard, but we can do it. So let's think positively. So the starting quarterback, we're down to third string.
Yeah.
Some guy named Danucci or something like that. I want to say he played at Michigan State, but I'm not.
Yeah, I couldn't even tell you his background. I didn't even know the guy was on the roster.
No, me neither. No, I did not know he was on the roster either. And the name kind of sounds familiar. I want to say Michigan State, but they had Jerry Jones on. He's doing one of his weekly radio commitments, and they're asking him. So they released they've been releasing. So they're cleaning house. They've traded. They've cut some players. I saw on the internet rumors of trading Amari Cooper. So if you're trading guys like that, then it's really like a start over kind of situation. And I guarantee you the head coach, McCarthy, is telling Jerry Jones, like, this isn't my team. These aren't my guys. This is a team that I came in. They're not buying in. Then Dak gets hurt. So we got to start fresh.
Shoot, Dak and Andy Dalton with that, that head injury.
No,
I think McCarthy's in. Yeah, I mean, when you had the reports that these players were saying, "Oh, these coaches aren't worth a damn. They're not teaching us this and that." they're going to get rid of a player before they're going to get rid of a coach. You know what I mean? So I'm
Mm-hmm.
pretty sure McCarthy's like, that's cool. And just kind of like, I don't know if you remember, what's his name, Belichick, when one of his players said something about, maybe the coaching staff or whatever. Like the next week they shipped him to the Browns, who were like horrible. He said he thought
Yeah.
he worked. So it's
Yeah.
like you're expendable more than I am. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So kind of not necessarily know your role, but you have a respect for the authority figure. And if there's not that respect there, I don't see why you shouldn't just, okay, well, let me get rid of the people who are causing problems or, not supporting what we're trying to do here,
Sure.
and bring in more people who will be on board with that. So it's just like when you're running a business and you have somebody, an employee who's disgruntled or just not happy, and then you got that one bad apple and it drags everybody else down. I mean, you don't want that morale in your company. You know what I
Oh yeah,
mean? So
everybody's got to buy. Everybody's got to buy in. And one of that story about and this was all anonymous apparently, but they made a big deal out of it because apparently nobody came to the coaching staff's defense or to McCarthy's defense. Like somebody could have then, a well-known player could have come out and said, "No, this is BS, yada yada." But that apparently that didn't happen either. So that's not a great sign. That's not a good sign. So at that point, Jerry Jones would look like a fool if he gets rid of McCarthy after 1 year. So he's going to be on board, I believe, in getting rid of some of these players and starting fresh, which as a fan kind of sucks because, the Cowboy fans' expectations are ridiculous to begin with, but it's this mentality of like, well, we should always be at least good, right? But we're not good. We're not going to be any good for the rest of the year.
Right.
And and the future is unknown. They would very likely be terrible for the next couple of years as maybe get lucky and be better. But last thing about the Cowboys. So when Dalton got hit, they were making a big thing about also on the Cowboys how nobody came to, that's that's something you fight start or you have a fight over something like that. And I think maybe because it was downfield and he was away from the lineman, it kind of happened away from it. Like if he had been hit like that in the pocket and the linemen are right there, maybe there would have been more of an opportunity. But even still, that was definitely a huge blow to the locker room or just the team.
I think too, if you're trying to develop this culture of all for one for all, we're a family, and you see one of your brothers get hurt intentionally, like very viciously, and then everybody's just kind of standing around like, where's the fire? Where's the motivation? And if it's everybody's just for themselves, that's what it seemed like. If you're not coming to this guy's aid when he got brutally hit in the head, I mean, it was savage. So nobody else came to at least like shove somebody or have some sort of fire. Sure. And then there's an issue, and then it seems like he goes back to not everybody's buying in for whatever reason. Are the players thinking they're above, the coach, so to speak, in a way that they don't have to listen to the coach or whatever? Because even McCarthy said he was disappointed in the fact that
they didn't come out and do. There wasn't more fire.
To just say like, hey, dude, like give him a little shove, like, hey, that's messed up, dude. You're not supposed to do that. None of that. So yeah, there's just no spark, no fire with that team, and if it takes getting rid of some players and bringing in a whole new team, you can draft, and that's what the Cowboys have been doing, is drafting all this offensive talent over the last 4 or 5 years. But if you can't get somebody, I'd rather have somebody who wants to play, may not be the best athlete, but wants to be out there 24/7 and give his 110% every single time, versus somebody who's, A+ talent but half-assed,
Yeah, well, they're not team players. They're the divas. The Cowboys have gotten, there's no Patriot way within the Cowboys. There's no Cowboy way. It's just whatever happens. So, moving on to Halloween. So Halloween's in the era of COVID, so things are slightly different. But are you still? What are your plans for Halloween? Is your kid? I mean, you're never too old to celebrate Halloween. So everybody celebrates Halloween in their own way at different ages. So,
And I'm still the guy who likes to get dressed up and go trick or treat for
yeah.
Halloween. So, but my son is at that. He's 10 now, so
Hmm.
he's at that age to where he's kind of being too cool.
Well, he wants
You
to go trick
know,
or treating, but without you. He doesn't want to go with his parents. He wants to go with his friends
well,
or something
yeah.
like
And
that.
so what we're doing with because of the COVID thing and all that, we're just getting some of the family members together and just having a little house party there for the
Uh-huh.
kids. Um, it's just you never know, man. Especially with how going house to house and all that. Even like they do like the trunk or treats where people
Yes,
line
they're
up
doing
the car.
those.
It's kind of still the same thing. People are handing stuff
Yeah,
out and
I'm glad you brought that up, James, because I don't understand the logic in that either. I guess in the trunk or treat, there's a limited participation,
right,
maybe. So
right,
you're not going to as many houses as you want. So maybe
right.
that's if you go to one. But if you just go to a bunch of trunk or treats, then you're not
Yeah,
you're
it's the same
defeating the
thing.
purpose. Because I know
Exactly.
people who are like treating this as a journey. They're going to go to one trunk or treat at this time, and then they're going to go to another trunk or treat later on in the evening, and then another trunk. So if you're doing that, that makes it's not it's kind of defeating the purpose, I think. So my boys do have a trunk or treat at their school this morning that they're participating in, and they were robots. I'm gonna add that into the podcast.
Okay,
Post edit.
cool.
I'm gonna put it on here
Yeah,
for everybody to see. But they're robots. It's hilarious. It's the cutest.
yeah.
It's the best. It's the best I've done or their mother has done
So
for
they're
Halloween.
homemade. They're
So
homemade.
far, no, they're not homemade, but they fit. They're just store bought robot
Okay.
robot costumes,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
they just fit them perfectly. When you buy the store ones, the ones in the bag,
Right.
they're all cheesy, cheaply
Yeah.
made, and sometimes they don't because they're meant for like almost one size fits all kind of
Right.
thing. For whatever reason, these fit them perfectly. You would
Yeah.
have thought they were made for them,
Yeah.
so
That's awesome.
it works out.
That's good. That's good.
You know
No,
what your
yeah.
son's you don't I'm gonna put you on the spot. I told you I wasn't.
Yeah.
What's your boy gonna be for Halloween?
He still hasn't decided. So it's gonna
Yeah,
be one of those makeshift,
sure.
maybe like a t-shirt and some fangs and some blood or something like that.
That's you need a white t-shirt,
Yeah. Oh
blood,
yeah. I
some
know about
fang.
that. Yeah. Oh yeah. So I mean, like that's how we used to do it growing up.
Mhm.
We couldn't, maybe afford to go to get the package deal. So my mom would probably get some fabric and make like a cape.
Yeah,
And
they're
yeah,
expensive. If you buy those for your kids, they're like $20-30 each. If you have 2 or 3 kids, you're
yeah.
trying to spend $100 on Halloween. Then you got to buy
Well,
candy.
then it's all the accessories. You know what I mean? Like it's
Mhm.
just like a basic thing, and then if you're really gonna fit the costume, you got to buy all this other stuff.
Sure, and then they're gonna wear it one time because you can't be the same thing the next year.
Yeah,
So they're like,
yeah, yeah.
let's see, man. I wanted to say something about Halloween. Because a lot of times the kids, when I'm giving out candy, you see there's a whole bunch of them with just the mask.
Hmm.
And when you're young, really, you can't dress. I mean, you can dress yourself a little bit, but it's really the parents. If you're really gonna have a thought out,
Hmm.
cool Halloween costume, it's the parents that are doing this because they're the ones who have to go to the store, buy the makeup, go to the store, buy the wig, go to the store, get all this stuff. It's not the kid,
Hmm.
you know, it's not the kid at all. So now I have to reimagine Halloween because growing up, my parents weren't into Halloween at all, which then basically made me not into Halloween
Yeah, yeah,
because I don't know. I guess I didn't have the drive to be like, listen, I'm going to make my own costume and I'm going to go
yeah,
to Halloween or something. So we always had lame costumes for a while when I got older.
yeah,
Okay. Whereas now you see families, and I think this is because of the era, the age of Facebook. Everybody wants to put a photo, so everybody gets together. Or Halloween means even more now because now you can stunt on Facebook and be like, "Look at our family. We're the Adams family." Some get real
I've seen some
creative.
families who do like professional photo shoots for Halloween. I mean, I like the
No,
holiday,
go
but
for it if you want to do it. There's no.
uh,
I think it's funny. I don't. When on Saturday we're gonna go to my brother's, and my sister-in-law likes to take a lot of photos of these kinds of things, and they do get all dressed up. And so we're gonna be dressed up. My boy's gonna look cool. I don't have a costume, so I'm like your son. I'm still thinking it may be homemade before Saturday, but when we get there, I guarantee you, man, we're gonna take 100 photos, and
Mhm.
you're gonna be sitting. It's like like at a wedding where you got to sit there. It's like 30 minutes in, we're taking photo after photo. It's like
Hey
okay.
man, so let me tell you what I did real quick one time is I had just like a Cowboys t-shirt. I got my son's headphones like the ones you have now,
Mhm.
and I kind of put the thing in my back pocket, and then I was carrying like a clipboard, so I was just like clapping, like I was David Webb
Yeah,
walking around
you and
clapping.
Coach,
Easy, dude, easy.
everybody.
So
Oh my God, that one's genius. That was really good.
yeah, so I was gonna say, man, you could do something really. You probably have half the stuff there at your house anyway. You
You,
gotta get
you,
creative.
you know what, folks? See, this is the kind of brilliance that you're working with. If you, as for real estate, we're talking outside the box,
There you go. Thank
on
you.
taking the initiative, being able to uh, find solutions with even not you use the resources that are available to you to find
Exactly.
success, right? And
There
here
you
you are, pulled it off. I'm sure you got all
go.
kinds of laughs. Oh,
Yeah.
that's such a good costume.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Hey, we're going to take a quick break. Okay, just like a couple minute break. We're folks at home. James Rivera with the Maribel Montalvo team. Is that right? Or is this the Montalvo team?
Well, Mirabel Montalvo is a brokerage firm, and then
You're on the Montalvo team, though. That's your shirt.
I'm
So
on.
pick it up again.
Oh yeah, you gotta.
Make sure we
Yeah,
get
the
it. There we go.
Montalvo.
Montalvo team.
There you go.
All right. Shout out when we get back with our guest, James Rivera. And you're on and you're watching, hopefully at home. And soon to be, James, we're going to have a YouTube channel. God willing, by this time next week, we're going to have, whenever we post the podcast, it's also going to be put on YouTube as well. And then over the coming weeks, we're going to be uploading our catalog, okay,
All
of back
right.
episodes onto YouTube. So, folks, stick
Yeah.
with us. We'll be back.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
This is not going to.
Now you're good.
Thanks for joining us from the break, folks at home. Jamin's Daily with our guest, James Rivera. We're just kind of talking here while we were in the break, James, about a little bit back to business. So we're actually, I'm almost the same age. Went to different high schools with same age, but we didn't grow up together because I didn't live in Corpus for most of my life growing up as young kids. But we've been able to reconnect. We see each other from here and then. How is the family? How is that side? Because we're related. We're like distant. We're like a cousin. Like your mom is, I think, my dad's first cousin. Is that
Cousin.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We're gonna have a little family reunion, folks. So you get to learn more about your host. Okay, here
Yeah.
with James Rivera. So when y'all do things, I think recently we went to a Christmas party that was hosted by y'all's side of the family. I can't remember if it was your uncle, but there's all these cousins like Senia and
Yeah.
those sisters, right? There's a bunch of sisters in them that I don't see very often, but I see more because of Facebook. And I'm always puzzled by how I'm related. I know we're related, but exactly how.
Right. Right.
We're going
So
to spend this last
you
segment
know,
of the podcast figuring this out.
talk about yeah. So the that side, the Claret side, is actually my grandpa's sister. So that's how they're related, and I think that's how your dad is a cousin somewhere along those lines.
Yeah, because your grandpa was my dad's first cousin.
Right.
I
Right.
think on his mom's side or his dad's side. I'm not
I
sure.
think it's the Godoy side.
The Godoy,
Yeah.
which was
My grandpa's last name, and then Grandma Godoy was kind of the patriarch or the
uh,
matriarch.
yeah.
Kind of where it spreads out that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, no, I mean, we got good roots and got good following here in Corpus Christi.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of
a lot of successful people in our family.
exactly. For those who don't know, our my uncle, and he would be again some kind of cousin, great cousin to you. Like he was your grandpa's cousin, first cousin, also. Has owned and operated a successful small business, payroll,
Mm-hmm.
and bookkeeping company for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
he has so much business, James. He all the taquerias, because
Yeah.
that's where I do my payroll. So I go over there to pick out the payroll and talk with him and stuff. And so they got all these files. So many of the taqueria companies, the restaurants, they
Mm-hmm.
use him for the payroll. So yeah, folks at home, we got some good. Whether it's just from not just from father and son, but nicely spread. From this whole family tree. It'd be interesting to do once all this COVID is over, a family reunion
Yeah.
of a larger scale.
Yeah.
Everybody, not just the Alemans and not just the good,
Well,
but like
and you mentioned the Christmas party, the Clariches, they always host that every year. This year is going to be obviously different because of, COVID and everything like that. And it's going to be, a little different, but yeah, we definitely got to keep that tradition going and keeping all the family, extended cousins together because you never know who you'll meet, just like in the business side and part of like maybe a possible networking event,
sure.
I mean,
Well, if you
but
can't get your if you can't get your family to do business with you, then you're in trouble, So I have to give shout outs to all my family who are my customers. Okay, greatly appreciate it. Um, it's funny that you mentioned that because on Christmas Eve we would normally go over to my uncle Eddie's, the one who owns the payroll company, because him and my dad are real close. So my dad moved from California to come back and live with his older brother. When his family moved to California, he didn't want to live there, so he came back and lived with his older brother. And my dad calls his brother's name is Eddie,
mm-hmm.
and he calls him Nick though. My mom said that when they got married, it was several years later that she realized that his name wasn't Nick, that it was actually Eddie. But my dad's always called him Nick. It's weird. They have Christmas Eve there. We go over there. So this is going to be like the first time in probably 10, 15 years that I can think of, maybe longer. They've been having it longer than that, but that I've been going.
Right.
They're not going to, that's one of the things that I think I have done every year for a long time. But they're old, these are old folks that, we can't be getting all together in a place like that, You just can't. So that's canceled for sure. I'm hoping we can just do it next year.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and that's the thing with everything that's going on. A lot of family traditions, things like that. It's during the summer. I mean, I don't think a lot of people took the summer trips they wanted to take that they normally take, or things like that. And unfortunately, because of this COVID thing, it's really put a damper on a lot of people's traditions. Hopefully, we get past that pretty soon. Not to change this into a COVID talk or whatever, but it's just now that we're getting to the holidays, it's feeling a lot more real again. It seemed like for a while we were okay. People were kind of, getting used to, it, but now.
Well, there's been in other countries in Europe, there's been large protests that have turned semi violent over COVID, increased COVID restrictions. And then, we're starting to see it just hasn't, I guess what people will hope is it just goes away. And so if it doesn't go away, it's still in the media. People are still getting sick over it. And that kind of leads to, I'm glad you brought this up because this can kind of segue to COVID plus sports for a minute. So the number one draft pick probably next year, Heisman hopeful quarterback at Clemson. Forget what his name is. Trevor Lawrence, yes. Sunshine, the long, beautiful blonde hair, right? Good looking guy. He has COVID. He has COVID. He's missing. So he's out for this next game. They're playing Boston College. But next week, they play Notre Dame. Big game. Okay? Yeah. Well, the ACC, as well as the SEC, if you miss a game for COVID or you have COVID, you have to have 4 consecutive days of negative COVID tests before you can get back on. Okay. Which is best because Nick Saban had COVID and they thought he may not coach, but he made those 4 days and he was able to coach. So same thing here. Well, in the Big Ten, do you know if you have COVID, if you're playing and you have COVID, you're out 21 days. They don't even test. There's just no testing. It's just you're out for 21 days. By 21 days, you shouldn't have it anymore. So there's no. So can you imagine? That's 21 days. I was talking to my dad about this. I was like, this is a huge disparity in competitive advantage from one conference to the next. Because if in one conference your star player can come back 4 days later, but in the other conference he's out for 21 days, how is this fair? This unfair.
Man. I mean, like now it's already been a shortened season, especially in the Big Ten. They started late, and then if somebody tests positive, they're out 3 weeks. That's their year. I mean, that's their year, and especially these seniors or these aspiring people who wanted to go to the NFL or post college football. What are their options? It's tough, man. It's tough for these athletes.
Getting to some of the points you were making is that just how even something that's as non-essential as, I guess, a game, football, when you in the grand scheme of things, I like to think it's essential to my life. Ultimately, folks, I tell you that the way I see things. Yeah. But in the grand scheme of things, unessential. But sometimes the things that are unessential have the biggest influence on how people think about things. So in this way, when somebody who's an avid, keeps up with sports, looks at the unfairness, and then they're able to apply it to maybe other things of the other lockdown rules, or other rules within COVID, or the changes that are going to go on. It's unfair that kids can't go to school. Right. If you're looking at that, how fair is it compared to other people who do get to go to school, but then in some places kids can't go to school, or they're not being compelled to go. The unfairness. So it's funny how sports, I think, can translate that way. When people start looking at COVID, people can be real mad about COVID restrictions when their star player on their team can't play, right? It can influence. It can have a huge influence on things. Anyways, James, thanks for joining us, man. I know we're all busy on Fridays. People, especially in real estate, a lot of times people are closing on Fridays. People are supposed to be closing on Fridays. So when there are fires, hopefully you don't have fires, but sometimes you got these fires that you got to put out, right? I understand. I got it. So we don't want to take up too much of your time, but we appreciate the time that you do give us, James. Hope to have you on again. Folks at home, don't forget that this podcast is brought to you by Sage Choice Insurance Agency. We hope to work with the Montalvo team. We need to take you to lunch. Y'all need to, next time, James, I'm going to put a challenge to you to bring somebody else on the Montalvo team, and we can have a threesome. Okay? All right? We can do a 3-person podcast, have a lot of fun. Sage Choice Insurance. You can reach us at 361-400-2411. Jamin's Daily. James Rivera, our guest. Thanks for joining us. Stick with us because the best is yet to come.